Spotify is crashing and burning, and it's dragging artists and the future of music down with it. We've been watching this train wreck for years, and somehow it just keeps getting worse.
That Spotify is just trying to find new ways to pay artists less, incorporate more AI garbage into the platform.
If Spotify can put out AI fake artists and people stream it and they're perfectly okay with it, and then not pay artists that are getting streamed as well, then it just increases the incentive for them to fill their playlist with fake artists.
1 billion streams, right? My publisher hit me. I said, break that down. How much money is that? That's I need $45,000.
That's crazy.
Spotify executives are out here celebrating their biggest profits ever, while actual musicians can't afford rent and groceries, and they are acting like all of this is normal. 500 million people log into this platform every single day to listen to music, but behind the scenes something much darker is going on, and most people are completely unaware of this. So how did the biggest music platform in the world go so wrong? Let's break it all down. This is the downfall of Spotify. Alright, let's rewind the clock back to 2008. Daniel Ek launches Spotify, and he's selling this whole story about how streaming is gonna solve music piracy forever. Sounds great on paper, but to get the music industry to actually work with him, Ek had to basically sell his soul. He gave away roughly 18% of his company to the big 3 record labels, Sony, Universal, and Warner. Sony got 5.7%, Universal around 4%, and Warner around 4%. These labels now own chunks of Spotify before it even makes money. But here's the thing, they are not just investors sitting quietly in the background. These are the same people that decide which songs get pushed, which playlists get featured, and ultimately which artists blow up. Spotify has to give up around 70% of every dollar it makes, mostly to those same labels. So they get paid twice, once as royalty collectors and again as shareholders. Then streaming farms start popping up everywhere, warehouses full of phones and computers just streaming fake songs 24/7 to steal royalty money.
These artists are on these streaming forums, they are on these streaming platforms. Even from a guy like a J. Cole that say how many artists got streams from these bots, they not as hot as they seem. Well, J. Cole is a part of that system as well, and he don't even know it. The major labels are running these streaming farms, they running these streaming numbers, they running these setups. All right, we in a major industry, and that industry is ran by a machine. This shit, the Matrix.
The whole system is getting scammed by bots, and Spotify can't fix it without admitting their business model is broken. It's estimated that these streaming farms are costing artists up to $300 million a year, but because Spotify keeps their 30% either way, they don't seem to care at all. So instead of fixing the real problem, Spotify decides to get in on the scam. They quietly commission stock music creators like one Swedish composer, Johan Rohr, who pumped out over 2,700 tracks under 650 fake band names. Those songs alone got more than 15 billion streams on their instrumental playlists. Why pay real artists when you can flood your playlist with anonymous elevator music and pocket the royalties yourself? Spotify quickly went from saving music to replacing real artists with fake mass-produced songs just to boost their own profits. And trust me, this is only the beginning. In 2023, Spotify rolled out a brand new royalty rule. If your song doesn't hit at least 1,000 streams, you don't get paid at all. It doesn't matter if someone streamed it 900 times or if 300 people actually liked it and added it to their playlists. So what happens to your royalties if you don't hit 1,000? That money goes straight to the top, literally. The biggest artists on the platform get a bonus because smaller artists don't get paid at all. Now look, Spotify underpaying artists isn't really breaking news at this point, but lately they've stopped even pretending to care. While musicians are struggling to pay bills, Spotify's been throwing hundreds of millions of dollars at podcasts, trying to become the Netflix of audio, the Joe Rogan deal, the Obamas, Kim Kardashian, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, exclusive contracts with big names. They burned through billions and most of it flopped. Then they started laying off employees and canceling shows. It was a mess.
1 out of every 6 employees of Spotify won't be around next year. The company is making those deep cuts to its payroll as it looks to cut expenses.
But even after all of that, they are not stopping. Now they've got a new plan, audiobooks. They've started bundling audiobooks into music subscriptions, not because people were asking for it, but because it lets them label it as something other than just a music plan. If your plan isn't labeled as music only, Spotify can legally pay less in music royalties. They found another financial loophole and presented it as a feature, and artists are suffering the consequences again. But what I want to talk about next is not just unfair, it's weird, it's creepy, and honestly, kinda disturbing. Here's where things start to feel less like a music app and more like an episode of Black Mirror. February 2018, Spotify filed a patent for tech that can analyze your voice, and it's not just what you say, but how you say it. They claimed it's to help with better song recommendations. Sad voices get recommended, sad playlists, and so on. But let's be honest, this isn't about helping you find new music to listen to. It's about targeting your emotions. Think about this. Your mic picks up stress in your voice. Now you're served calming music and an ad for therapy apps. Feeling lonely? Here comes an ad for dating services. Tired? A sponsored playlist from an energy drink brand. Over 180 musicians and human rights groups protested the patent, calling it manipulative and dangerous. Spotify responded by saying they don't currently use it, but they still filed it, they still own it, and if this is what they're willing to patent, what else are they building behind the scenes? Now, before we get to the most disturbing part of this story, I want to address the issue with AI generated songs. You'd think Spotify would be fighting against AI music and protecting real artists from getting replaced by AI. Absolutely not. Instead, they're embracing it. Spotify is quickly becoming flooded with AI music, and it's not just random background noise. These tracks are getting pushed into playlists, racking up streams, and in some cases even posing as real artists. Take this band you probably heard of, The Velvet Sundown, currently sitting at 1.2 million monthly listeners, and all of their music is completely AI generated using Suno AI, and Spotify is doing absolutely nothing about it. There have even been cases where AI songs were uploaded to real artist profiles because there's no proper system in place to stop it. You can simply log into any of the distribution platforms like DistroKid and choose any artist from the drop-down menu, and your song will be uploaded to their profile. And when this happens, artists are stuck waiting, sometimes up to 6 weeks, just to get the fake music removed. And at this point, it's hard to tell if Spotify just doesn't care, or if this is exactly the direction they want to go in. But now we get into the most disturbing part of the story. The deeper you dig into Spotify's operations, the more messed up it gets. Spotify donated $150,000 to Trump's inauguration ceremony and hosted a pre-inauguration brunch. Spotify CEO even had a phone call with Trump. X shared statistics with the president-elect about how well his pre-election podcast interview with Joe Rogan performed on the streaming platform. So while artists are fighting for fair pay and struggling to make ends meet, Spotify is dropping 6 figures on political events, but political donations are just the tip of the iceberg. The real story is about where Daniel Ek has been putting his personal wealth that's built on the backs of underpaid musicians, and subscription fees from millions of users who probably have no idea what they're actually funding. Ek has led a €600 million investment round into Helsing, a German defense company that develops AI tools for military use, and has become chairman of the company. He first invested €100 million into Helsing back in 2021. The company doesn't just make defensive software, they also build autonomous military drones like the HX-2, and have developed the Centaur system that puts advanced AI pilots into fighter aircraft cockpits. Let that sink in for a moment. The CEO of the platform that millions of people use to discover music is now the chairman of a company that builds autonomous military drones and AI-powered weapon systems. Every time someone streams a song on Spotify, a small amount of that money eventually makes its way to Daniel Ek's personal fortune. He's been steadily cashing out his Spotify stock for years, turning his shares into hundreds of millions of dollars, and a big chunk of that money is ending up in companies that develop technology designed to kill people more efficiently. So we're looking at a future where AI replaces musicians and also operates military drones, and the same guy is profiting from both. What makes it so disturbing is that most Spotify users have no idea that their subscription fees are contributing to the wealth of someone who's actively investing in weapons technology. Artists uploading their life's work to the platform don't realize they're part of a system where their creative work helps fund the development of autonomous kill machines. Spotify didn't kill music, but it's bleeding it dry. It took something real and turned it into a cold, calculated system. The focus was never on the artist, it was always about control, data, and profit. We've seen people try to change that. Jay-Z bought Tidal and said, "We're gonna pay artists what they deserve." But even that couldn't survive the grip Spotify has on the culture. When one platform dominates everything, it doesn't need to play fair. So where does that leave us? Right now, there's no real alternative that can compete. Spotify might be crashing and burning, but they're still pulling in the biggest profits and they still control the biggest share of the music streaming world. Thanks for watching. Drop a comment if this resonated and subscribe if you want more stories like this.